Big Fish, directed by Tim Burton and released in 2003, is a fantastical film that attempts to find the line between the cold, hard facts of life and our imagination's fantasies and the stories we tell. The movie begins with a voiceover of young Edward Bloom telling his favorite story of how he once caught the biggest fish you've ever seen. Come to find out, it's this story, amongst many others, that makes Edward's son, Will, resent his father for the lack of reality and the tall tales he's heard all his life.
They say when you meet the love of your life, time stops. And that's true.
The auteur theory holds certain directors as authors, so to speak, of their films, if they are not only proficient technically and have a distinct style, but also have an inexplicable way of filling moments with interior meaning. If a director could reach auteur status from one film, Big Fish would do just that. It is arguably Burton's best film, and without a doubt checks all the boxes for an auteur. But, because of the immense collaborative effort on the film from day one, Burton cannot be given full auteur credit.
I mean, you think this town is too small for you? Well, it's too small for a man of my ambition. So what do you say? Join me?
Okay.
The screenplay of Big Fish was written by John August, based off a book by Daniel Wallace. August had recently lost his father when he came across the book, so the father-son relationship resonated with him. Steven Spielberg was originally supposed to direct, but when he backed out of the project, Tim Burton rose to take his place. Burton had also recently lost both his parents when he signed on to the project, so it's no surprise that the emotional relationship between Edward and Will is the heart of the film that resonates with the audience.
You don't even know me.
I have the rest of my life to find out.
As D.W. Dunphy wrote, the book has a weight to it that is absent from Burton's pre-Big Fish films. While Burton would eventually inject a large amount of his filmmaking personality into Big Fish, the project put the director inside a unique new box. That limitation is one of the film's greatest strengths, as it forced Burton to stretch his wings within the realistic, dramatic sections of the film.
In telling the story of my father's life, it's impossible to separate fact from fiction, the man from the myth.
This applies to the character of Edward, but the cinematography, mise-en-scène, and score throughout the film prove quite the opposite. The scenes based in present-day time are very ordinary. The color grading is bland, the shots ordinary, and the mise-en-scène unapologetically realistic. Every time we switch to a flashback scene, however, a glowing haze sweeps across the screen. The pastel colors come to life, the shots range from dramatic angles, and the sets and costumes seem filtered and larger than life. It isn't until the very last scene that the fact and fiction, man and myth, come together, and we see the stylistic blend in the cinematography as the characters' lives intertwine one last time. James Hoare describes the cinematography perfectly. Big Fish is American Gothic rather than pantomime Gothic, faded rural Americana. Its dark forests and carnival scenes washed out in an earthy retro tint rather than hallucinogenic and stylized. It feels genuine, and after a career specializing in the staged and the fake, it feels fresh. Burton does a beautiful job of realizing that in order to preserve the effect of his iconic style, he must reserve it for the scenes that apply, not the whole film. It's the contrast that resonates and helps the audience separate fact from fiction. Spielberg would not have made the flashback scenes so vibrantly stylized as Burton. D.W. Dunphy even wrote that, Burton sticking to what consistently works for him isn't a bad thing, but in departing from it, Big Fish is made all the more remarkable. However, the story of Big Fish is much bigger than Burton. In the end, Burton's stamp of style pulled the story into its truest form, but he cannot be named auteur of the film because of the creative input of so many other cinematic legends. This film perhaps rises above the auteur theory, and that his stylization of the other films make him a wonderful director. But this film's brilliance lies not in the overuse of his iconic style, but in the casual, normal life scenes that pull audiences into the characters' hearts so they can allow the extraordinary world of Edward Bloom to flourish in their own mundane and ordinary stories.